Hello, my friends, and welcome back to the One Fear Per Year podcast. I am joined by a very, very special guest. Someone who I couldn't even believe it as I looked more into his mission and what he's about. I was floored at how much we have in common and just the amazingness of this individual. So, Jonathan Graham, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, my pleasure. My pleasure.
Yay. Okay. So, I go to your LinkedIn profile and I see fact check your fear. It's been lying to you. Tell me what made you choose those words to put big and bold on the front of your LinkedIn profile?
Yeah, so that's a great question. The point of this fact checking the fear is just like with news in the media, on the internet, politicians, we know that there's fake news, and it's important to fact check what we read because not everything that we read and see is actually real. There was a study done by Penn State University looking at about 91% of fears that people had of the population they surveyed never came to be true. So in this scenario, you see that 9 out of 10 times, what you're thinking about never even comes to be true. And fear is designed to keep us safe. It's an evolutionary response to perceived risk. There's nothing wrong with fear in and of itself, but excess fear, that is the problem. So fear really we wanted to have to be commensurate with the level of risk. So let's imagine on level 110, scales of 1 to 10 of fear and risk. Fear is the response to the perceived risk. So it's the thing that we think we're worrying about. All fear, we experience it in the present, but it's all anticipatory. It's about the future, what we think is going to happen. So imagine we have a level 1 to 10 scale for fear and a level 1 to 10 scale for risk. The appropriate level of sizing is when you have a level 5 risk with a level 5 fear. That's commensurate. That's when fear is your friend. It's in the friend zone.
Nice.
But when we have a level five risk with a level 10 fear, we have 5 extra points of fear, and that's excess fear. And that's when fear becomes a false prophet. So just like a prophet in the religious sense would prophesy of things that would happen, fear prophesies of the worst case scenario, but it's doing it in a sense that it's false. And that's what keeps us stuck. That's what all overthinking, analysis paralysis is. All those things are basically excess fear. And just on the other side, for anybody else who's wondering, well, we shouldn't think things through. No, there's also when you have an incorrect amount of fear for a level of risk. So if you have a level 5 risk and a level 1 fear, that's what I call the fearless fool zone. So you're underthinking. So just like there's overspending, overreacting, overeating, there's overthinking and there's underthinking. You want to have the appropriate level of thinking. You want to give risk the appropriate level of respect that it deserves, but never announce more. So that's why it's important to fact check your fear. I've got a 5-step framework that I teach called the FACTS framework to help people fact check their fear.
Bam! Okay.
Because it can
Hold
be
up.
like a lying politician that you've seen on the news, I've seen on the news, and they'll lie. They'll tell you anything to get elected. And the ego wants to protect itself at all costs. And the ego is rooted in fear. It's a protective cover for self. So all insecurities are rooted in fear. Everything that we do is designed to keep us safe and help us survive. And, we no longer need that outdated, thinking in many senses.
That is so good. That is so good. The way that you explain that with the level of risk versus fear. Because let's take public speaking, for instance. I mean, your point exactly. It's like the risk there is very low, but many times people's fear of that is very, very high. So, talk a little bit about that. Why, for public speaking specifically, why does that happen, do you think?
Oh, yeah. So I will actually walk you through the 5 steps to fact check the fear, if you'd like to do that.
I love it.
All right. Number 1 is to find the fear. We have to name it before we can tame it. So becoming super specific about the thing that we are trying to avoid gives us power over it, if we can just name it. Because ambiguity amplifies anxiety. I don't know if you've ever seen any of these scary movies like The Shining, Blair Witch Project. Okay. In
I'm
addition
a
to
wimp.
okay. in addition to being like horror movies that are super commercially successful, they all had one thing in common, is that they never showed the monster. So this is why the fear of the unknown is so great, because we don't know when we're going to, or the fear of the unknown is the greatest fear that we have. And that's how Hollywood knows how to use it against our own will to manipulate our emotions during a movie. But the fear of death, that's why it's one of the greatest fears, is because we don't know what happens when we die, and we don't know when it's going to occur. So when we can get super specific about what the thing that I'm fearing is, then we can actually start to get power over it. So number one in the facts framework, FACTS, is to find the fear. So me specifically naming, I'm afraid of public speaking, that's the surface level fear. I'm actually not afraid of public speaking. When we peel that back, I'm afraid of public speaking and making a mistake. Well, it's not just the mistake. Well, what is the consequence of it? Ultimately, we realize I'm afraid of embarrassing myself, and I fear that I will not be good enough and worthy of being part of this community. I feel that there will be some sort of consequence that will negatively impact me. And ultimately, we evolved as a community, hunter-gatherer society, sharing resources. That's why one of the worst forms of punishment we can have is cancel culture or solitary confinement, shutting you out from a community, excommunication from the church. So we have a need to be accepted. And if we fear that we mess something up or do something bad, that is going to jeopardize our ability to be part of a community and survive. So that's where this really comes down to. And once you realize, oh, that's so silly, no one's going to actually not let me be a part of this community because I made a mistake during speaking. But if we don't think about that, that's how our brain can hijack us.
Well, and what you've talked about with the fear of not being good enough, underlying pretty much all of those types of fears, the fear of failure, fear of embarrassment, fear of criticism, fear of judgment, ultimately coming down to the fear of not being good enough, the fear of not being loved or not feeling like you're not lovable.
Yes.
What has been your experience with that fear of not being good enough?
It's real. Uh, I think there's two acronyms for fear: false evidence appearing real, and face everything and rise. And that's why it's important to fact check the fear. There's another thing that I talk about, the SOUP list, stacks of undeniable proof. So SOUP is an acronym for stacks of undeniable proof. And it's literally writing a list to yourself every time that you do have evidence so that you can call BS on fear, because it's oftentimes a false prophet.
Ooh, that's very interesting because with the one fear per year, as I did things every year that really stretched me out of my comfort zone, and as you've done things that have just stretched you, I know you've traveled and done some skydiving, it looks like, some running with the bulls and different things like that that you were sharing. It's like this yeah, having all the fear there and then going, okay, how do I move through this? Like what is the next best step when you're just faced with so much overwhelming kind of debilitating fear? How do
Yeah.
you how do you coach somebody through that?
Yeah. So actually, this book by Dr. Robert Biswas Steiner, The Courage Quotient, uh, it didn't do so well commercially, but it's really great from an academic research perspective. He's a PhD psychologist and happiness researcher, and he found the connection between courage and happiness. And this was monumental for me because he actually quantified, and I'm a nerd by background, engineer in formal education. He quantifies courage as an equation of the willingness to act in the face of fear. And so on a simple equation, on the numerator, you have willingness to act, and on the denominator, you have fear. And so these are two independent spectrums that you can influence. So if someone gets your name wrong and you don't speak up, they get your coffee order wrong and you don't speak up, that chips away at your willingness to act. And then on the denominator, there's things you can do to decrease fear. So fear is an evolutionary, psychological, and physiological response to perceived risk. Whether it's box breathing, different exercises that have been proven, gratitude, which we know has a powerful effect. The amygdala, literally the part of the brain that processes fear, the amygdala, can be activated at the same time when you're expressing deep gratitude. So these are a number of different modalities that you have available. But one of those is literally using ration, using logic, right? So that's where the facts framework that I have. Find the fear, right? FACTS, find the fear, assess the validity of all the outcomes. So not everything that we think about is conclusive of what can actually happen. We only think about the worst case. We don't think about the best case or the most likely case. Third is C, is calculate the probability of each. So yes, it's possible that you bomb on stage, but it's also possible that you do well, or it's possible that you're just okay and no one cares. There's multiple different outcomes that could occur. T is to take steps to de-risk. So what can you do? How can you prepare? How can you learn from a great coach? How can you practice? How can you de-risk? And then last is S, FACTS, the step back for perspective. A great rule that I love is the 5x5 rule. So if it's not going to matter in 5 years, don't let it matter more than 5 minutes. So giving this public speech, is it really going to be life-changing? If you get this wrong, probably not. You can get back up. You can give another speech. There's so many different ways that we can be resilient. It's just a lesson.
Oh, I love that. I love viewing things as a lesson.
Yeah.
Like, what can I learn from this? How can I grow from this? If we look at everything through that lens, then a perceived failure or whatever becomes, well, no, not a failure at all, because guess what? We learned something, we grew, and ultimately life is about growing
Yes.
and that forward momentum and becoming the best versions of ourselves that we possibly can be. And speaking of the best versions of ourselves, I know that you have a mission.
Yeah.
Tell us all about your mission to help 1 million people build courage. What is that? How did that start?
Yeah. So I used to work in Silicon Valley, spent over a decade in Silicon Valley. And when I got to Apple, they have an orientation and they give you this placard and it says, welcome to Apple. This is where people do their life's work. And it really got me thinking about what my life's work was. And even though I loved the job and loved the people I worked with and I knew I was very privileged to be there, I knew that there was something more that I wanted to do with my life. I didn't want to only make products that, made the world, a little bit better. I want to do stuff that like change people's lives. And so I was always thinking what this looks like. And the role that I had is called a product manager. And so you work with engineering teams and design, and you work with building products. And the way that we think about building a great product, or the pecking order of products within product management, the prestige that would go with it, is based on scale and impact. So how many people use the product, and then how often or to what degree does it impact their lives? And so when I thought about this, I thought about my life as a product. And I said, if I'm using my time, my energy, and my attention in the highest and best use, can I justify what I'm doing today? And I said, unequivocally, no. I know that the best use of my skills is actually being a ripple effect to help other people remove the layers of fear standing between them and their potential. So I can only achieve so much as a person myself, but imagine all the books that never get written, the conversations that never get had, the businesses that never get started. There's these layers of fear that are in between a person where they are today and where their potential is. And what I want to do is close that gap by giving people the tools and the resources and the community to do that. So that's my mission, is to positively impact as many lives as possible by helping remove fear as a barrier to human potential.
That is so cool. I get goosebumps when I hear that. I think that what an amazing mission. And tell us how that started. I know we were talking offline and you had said something about travel. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Yeah. So one of the biggest regrets I had in college was never studying abroad. And I always wanted to speak another language. And I had read a book called The Top 5 Regrets of the Dying. Very good book, written by a hospice nurse. And she compiled a list of the top regrets that people had before they passed. And number one was not living a life true to themselves. That was by far the number one. People wish that they'd lived a life true to themselves, not one that others expected of them. And the third one was, on the top 5 regrets of the dying, was I wish I had the courage to express my true feelings. So here it is, 2 of the top 5 regrets of the dying, both related to courage. And I knew that I wanted to live a much more intentional life. And I had the opportunity to do it. And so I said, hey, I'm going to leave this behind. I'm going to move to Latin America. I'm going to pick up Spanish. I'm going to spend some time traveling. And that's what, gave me the ability to make that. And before I did it, I was overwhelmed with fear, variety of fear of other people's opinions. What are they going to think? Fear of failure, fear of all types of things. Oh, the cartels are going to get me. Everything that you could imagine, the brain was just hijacking it. And I had to do it scared. So that's why this work is, and the quality of my life has increased significantly. And now it gives me the credibility to talk about these things.
Absolutely. And what would you say was one of the biggest changes from before you went on that trip to having that full experience and then coming back? What were some big things that you learned or some takeaways from that time?
Yeah, I think so this is a key takeaway from this book, The Courage Quotient, is that courage is like a muscle. So just like a lot of us like to tell ourselves things, oh, that's easy for Janice to do. I could never go do that. And it gives ourselves an out. But really, just like a muscle, you can do things to grow it. But if you don't use it, you'll lose it. So what happened is that courage is not the absence of fear, it's the willingness to act in the face of fear. And I got my courage muscle stronger. And so it changed my relationship with fear and
Yeah.
changed my identity. People see me differently. I've been posting on social media for 30 days straight. And, all these things, I see fear through a different lens now.
Yes, I could not agree more. It's like building that courage muscle, like going to the gym just like you would for your body. What can I do? What little steps outside of my comfort zone can I take? And the more you do it, you really do build up kind of this respect for yourself and going,
Yes.
damn, because only we know inside how absolutely terrified we are.
Yes. 100%.
And so then when you do it, you're like, damn, girl, you did
Yes.
that thing.
Yes.
Damn, boy, good job. That kind of a just feeling of pride and self-love. So I love what you're about. I love your mission. You are, and I know already have impacted so many people by sharing this, by sharing your story. And because this is the One Fear Per Year podcast, is there anything in the next year or anything in the future that is a fear that you're like, I'm going to do it anyway?
Yes, yes. There will be a very big display that I'm planning for 2026. The most courageous thing I've done to date will pale in comparison to this. So it involves courage in a very public way. So you'll see it.
What? It's a surprise though, huh?
Yes, yes.
Dang.
I'll come back to talk to you about it.
Okay, you got to come on another time after so we can do a little before and after
Yeah.
recap. Because I'm super curious. I can't wait to see what that is. Uh, okay, so last question, because as always, time just flies when I'm talking to amazing people. But I ask everybody this, and there's no right or wrong answer. In your mind, if you have to give me an opposite word, just one word that is opposite from the word fear, what would that be for you?
Love.
And why does love come to mind for you?
So just yesterday, I found out about, are you familiar with Heart Math Institute?
Heart,
Heart Math?
oh, heart math. No.
Okay, so the word courage, by the way, the root word courage, and you know this from Spanish Janice, corazón, coraje. The root word comes from heart in Latin. And so it originally meant was to speak your heart, is where courage came from. And there's a number of other languages that also still use courage, the same etymology with heart. What I just realized and found out the other day is there's a cardiologist who wrote a book, an actual heart doctor who talked about the role that the heart plays with decision making, more so than the brain. And so Jeff Bezos had talked about a quote about the best decisions are always made from the heart, no matter how great the data is, that the best decisions in life and in business always came from the heart. And so when you think about there's amazing work that Dr. David Hawkins did called the map of consciousness, when he looks at vibrational frequencies attached to muscle testing. He did 20 years worth of studies on this, but basically each different emotion that we have is mapped with a vibrational frequency. So fear, anger, pride, and guilt, these are very low vibrational frequencies, scientifically proven. And at the higher levels, when you move to the higher levels states of enlightenment, you start to reach there, and love is closer to the top. And so when you think about what courage is and coming from the heart, and the best decisions in life, very seldom are they made from a place of fear, but the best decisions are made from love, from a place of growth, from a place of creation. So when we fall into our head, that's where fear can overtake us. It's meant to make us survive, never be successful. So that's where I think love is the word that I think of as the opposite to fear.
El amor siempre es la respuesta, ¿verdad que sí, amigo?
Sí, sí, claro que sí.
Oh my goodness. This has just been such an amazing conversation. I thank you. Mi corazón thanks you. Um, the wisdom, the knowledge, and the heart that you bring is so evident. And this living it, experiencing it yourself so that you then can go and really help other people is so admirable. So you have gained out of your 1 million, I'm sure, at least one more person who is willing and committed to keep flexing my own courage muscle to truly impact and make a difference on this planet Earth while we are here. Because as you pointed out, life is short, and for sure, we don't want those regrets on our deathbed. So, Jonathan, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you, Janice. My pleasure.
Everybody else, go out there and really get to the gym, get to that courage gym and build that muscle. Live your best, most remarkable life. We are rooting for you.
Yes.